differences in appearance depending on stove size. When you take a photo with a single stove, don't you think that the image will look the same no matter which stove you use? The stove size, the distance between the stove and the subject, the direction of the stove, and other factors can all affect the impression you get. In this video, I will tell you about the differences in the size of the stove surface. The subject is a very elegant lady, so I want to take a slightly close shot. First, I will apply Godox AD200 directly to the subject without using a softbox. Because the stove has a small area to emit light, the light is very hard. It feels like the highlights and shadows are clearly separated. The highlights become flat and the shadows become very dark, making it impossible to make women look beautiful. Next, use a 70 cm round softbox. The stove I use is a Comet B360 and the Speedbox 70 softbox. The stove should be as close to the subject as possible. The distance between the softbox and the subject is about 50 centimeters. The larger the area emitted by a stove, the softer the light quality. Furthermore, by moving the softbox closer to the subject, the light becomes softer and looks pretty good. However, when the light is moved closer to the subject, the contrast becomes a little stronger and the shadows become darker. This time, I will use a round stove with a large 150 cm softbox. The softbox used is a Godox AD300 with a 4 larger 150 softbox. Again, I try to get the stove as close to the subject as possible. The light became even softer. It looks very nice. However, this time I wanted to take a cool shot, so the shadows were a little too bright than I expected. So I would like to make them a little darker. To make the shadow area even darker, place a large black reflector close to the shadow side. It gave me the image of a cool woman like I thought. The light quality changes depending on the size of the stove surface. When shooting soft images, use a softbox as large as possible. If you want to take a hard, cool image, you can use the stove directly. Change the size of the stove surface while using the softbox to suit the image you have in mind. It looks good, doesn't it? Try using high-speed synchronization. In this video, I'll tell you about high-speed synchronization. Do you know about high-speed synchronization? High-speed sync is a method of shooting at the shutter speed faster than the camera's sync speed. To explain simply, there are two shutter curtains in front of the CMOS sensor of a digital camera. If the flash is synchronized while the shutter curtain is fully open, the image will look beautiful. If the shutter speed is too fast, the curtain will be visible in the photo. For normal cameras, 1/250th is the fastest shutter speed that can be synchronized. When shooting with a shutter speed higher than this, use a stop in high-speed sync mode. First, take a picture without a stop. The light is good enough, but it is from the sky, so the light is coming from above. A woman's face looks more three-dimensional and beautiful when lit from the side than from above. Exposure is f1.6, shutter speed 1/250, ISO 100. Next, I want the light to come from the side, so I bring the stop closer to the subject. The stop used this time is a Comet B360 with a Speedbox 70 softbox. The stop will fire at the same exposure. If you shoot at an exposure where the brightness of the background remains almost the same, you will get a beautiful daylight synchronized photo. This is a very beautiful picture. Now, let's try using high-speed synchro to use a faster shutter speed and darken the background. I will increase the shutter speed to 1/500 and use high-speed synchro. Exposure is f1.6, shutter speed 1/500, ISO 100. The background is now one stop darker, but the subject is also a little darker. Normally, the intensity of the stop is not affected by the shutter speed, but in high-speed sync mode, the amount of light from the stop is also reduced. To make the background darker, I set the shutter speed to 1/2000. Both the background and the person become darker. The background is darkened and looks very nice. The power of the stop is 132. Since I want to brighten just the subject, I will increase the stop power by about 3 stops. Exposure is f1.6, shutter speed 1/2000, ISO 100. Set the stop power to 1/4. The background is darkened and the subject is nicely illuminated by the stove light, making the image look as if it was shot with the stove at night. Isn't this interesting? Please give it a try. How to use a clip-on stove to make your photos look more natural and beautiful. In this video, I will show you how to use a clip-on stove to make your photos look more natural and beautiful when shooting with the backlight of a large window. First, have the subject stand in front of a large window with white curtains. The light is diffused by the white curtain, so the light is very soft. I will take a picture with the backlight from this large window. The subject is slightly underexposed, but the light is soft and very beautiful. It just feels like the color is a little muddy. To brighten the subject, I put a large white reflector in front of it. The subject becomes brighter, giving it a nice happy atmosphere. The subject also looks attractive. This is good enough, but I would like to add one more accent. I would like to create an atmosphere with direct sunlight coming in through the window and hitting the hair. Set the clip-on stove off camera, attach it to a stand, and shine it directly at the subject hair from the backlit, giving it a semi-backlit effect. The light from the clip-on stove looks like sunlight and hit the hair with a light, making it look more natural and beautiful. Just adding a hair light creates an accent light that brings out the feel. However, the light is a little hard, so next time I will soften the light by bouncing it off the back left wall. The hair light has become a little softer and now looks more natural than before. Also, stove light produces clearer colors without mudding, so people look even more beautiful. All you have to do is take a photo of the variation. It looks beautiful with just a natural light from the large window, but by adding accent, you can bring out the subject even more. Interesting, isn't it? Give it a try, everyone. You can take such beautiful pictures with just one clip-on stop. Even with just one clip-on stop, you can take very beautiful pictures. In this video, I will show you how to use just one clip-on stop, the differences in the various ways of applying it, and finally, how to make your subject look more attractive. The stop I'll be using this time is the Kodox V1, and I'll be shooting with just one stop without any accessories such as a softbox. First, I attach the clip-on stop on top of the camera and aim it directly at the subject. The strong shadow of the subject against a white background creates a cool image. If the camera is in portrait orientation, the stop will be on the left in this case, and the shadow will be on the right. Next, try bouncing the clip-on stop off the ceiling. Since the ceiling is white, soft light from above hits the subject. The light is now generally circulating around the subject, creating a bright image, but it feels flat. The light seems to be spread out too much. Now try bouncing the clip-on stop off the white wall on the left. In the same way, the bounced light is softened and hits the subject, but this time the light is coming from the side, creating a beautiful gradation of lighting and a three-dimensional effect. It looks very nice. Finally, remove the clip-on stop from the camera and attach it to the stand as an off-camera stop. This stop is bounced off the back left wall high up. Then, to reflect that bounced light back to the subject, a large white reflector is placed in front of the subject to the left. Let's take a picture. The bounced light in the back left hit the hair, creating a beautiful hair light. The light bouncing off the white reflector hit the subject with soft light, making it very beautiful. Even with only one clip-on stop, it is possible to take such beautiful pictures. This lighting is versatile and can be used for both close-ups and full body shots. Isn't it interesting? Please give it a try. interesting techniques with a single stove. We have shown you many lighting techniques using only one stove in the past. In this video, I will show you how to create interesting images using a single stove light and a mirror. You can create interesting images by using various ideas without fit into the mold. Please give it a try. This time, I will use only one Godox 8200 stove. First, let's use an 8200 stove to slightly backlight the subject from the right back. I will not use a white reflector. Now let's take the picture. Since the walls of the room are white, the light from the stove reflects off the white wall and turns around to cast a soft light on the person. The half backlit stove accentuates the hair light. The hair light is a little strong, but it looks good overall. I want to make it a little more interesting, so I'm going to use a full-length mirror. The angle is such that the stove light reflects off the mirror and hits the subject directly. Since the stove light is invisible to the eye, I adjust the angle while shooting. If the stove light hits only the body or the upper half of the subject body, it will not look good. Adjust the position of the mirror so that only the background is illuminated by the reflection of the stove. It looks interesting with the backlight. I'll adjust the angle of the mirror a little more so that the light hits both the subject and the background. The image looks cool now that the backlight and accent light seems to have hit the subject. It's interesting even though I only used one stove. Next, I tried reflecting a small mirror for makeup. The reflection of the mirror hit only the face, so the image is not as good as it could be. In this case, using a large full-length mirror gave a nicer image. Using a mirror with this single stove lighting can create an interesting image depending on your ideas. Please give it a try. If you have any interesting images, please send them to us. The difference between stoves from above and from the side, and the difference with a reflector. When using a large softbox close-up, the light is very soft, but the impression is different if you shine it from the side or from above. You can also change the impression by changing the brightness on the shadow side. In this video, I will show you the difference between light from the side and the light from above, as well as the difference in controlling shadows using a reflector or a strobe. It is very interesting, so watch until the end. The strobe I'll be using for the main light is a round softbox called Photix Larger 150 with a Godox AD300 attached. First, here is a light from the side. The subject is a young woman, and I want to capture her in soft light, so I move the softbox as close as possible. No reflector is used. Now let's take the picture. The texture of the skin is soft and the face looks very nice with a three-dimensional effect. Since no reflector is used, the shadows are slightly darker. Next, place a large white reflector on the opposite side of the main light to brighten the shadows. The shadow became brighter, and the contrast became weaker, creating a gentler image. This time, I will use black reflector instead of a white reflector to darken the shadows. The shadows fall dark and the contrast is strong, creating a cool image. Personally, I tried shooting some variations of this image with stronger contrast. It's very cool. In this case, it is better not to have a smiling face. Next, let's apply this softbox from above. Use a boom stand to hit it from above. It is very unstable, so put the weight on the opposite side of the light to balance it and keep it from falling over. The softbox from above should be as close as possible. Now let's take a picture. The light is soft, but if the light is from above, the lower part of the face will be dark and won't look as pretty. Place a reflector underneath to brighten the lower part of the face. I want the reflector to be high enough so that it doesn't fit into the frame, so I'm going to place it on the top of the chair. The lower part of the face is now a little brighter and looks better than before. When photographing women, I would like to make the lower part of the face a little brighter. However, if I raise the reflector a little higher, the reflector will be in the frame. So I use another stove. The stove used is Godox V1. Bounce the stove to the white reflector below. If you place the stove close to the floor, the light will be hard, so move the stove a little away from the floor. I try taking the pictures. The lower part of my face is now brighter than before, giving me a nice balance. Since it's a stove, it's nice to be able to adjust the brightness. In this case, set the lighting ratio to around 1 to 2 or 1 to 1.5 and weaken the contrast. If the floor is not white, the color will bleed over, so I recommend a white floor or a long white paperback. This lighting is also beautiful, so I shoot some variations. It looks good. Do you understand the difference between light from the side and from above? Just changing the direction of the light can change the impression. Also, changing the brightness of the shadows will give a different impression. Isn't it interesting? Please save it as a reference. How to use daylight sync to capture a beautiful woman and background. Daylight sync is a method of using a stove to control the brightness of ambient light and capture a beautiful background that the stove cannot reach. Since a stove is a flash of light, it is not affected by the shutter speed, but ambient light is affected by the shutter speed, so it is necessary to control the brightness of the background with the shutter speed. In this video, I'll show you how to use daylight sync to capture a beautiful image of a woman while also balancing the brightness of the natural background. First, I try shooting using only ambient light without a flash and adjust exposure to match the subject. The subject is just a right brightness, but the background is overexposed. Next, try shooting with the exposure adjusted to the background. The subject will be underexposed. When shooting with daylight sync, the background looks more natural if it is about one stop brighter than the correct exposure. So I try shooting one stop brighter. The background is now a little brighter, but the subject is still a little dark. Next, I use a stove to brighten the subject. The stove I'll use is a Comet B360 with a round softbox called a Speedbox 70 attached. I try shooting with this softbox directly on the subject. The light is hard and doesn't bring out the woman beautifully. It also looks too light and unnatural. To soften the light, I bounce it off the wall on the right. The light is softer, but the light from the side has made the shadows darker. To soften the light, move the stove a little to the far right and bounce it off the wall to create the same backlit light. In addition, I put a white reflector in front of the stove to bounce the stove light. The light is very soft and accurate, creating a natural and beautiful expression. The brightness of the background is also well balanced with the stove light, so it looks natural as I showed with a brighter exposure. When shooting with daylight sync, first decide on the brightness of the background. Then light the subject with the stove, but control the light intensity with the stove and do not change the aperture, shutter speed, or ISO setting. Once you master daylight synchronization, your photographic skills will improve dramatically. Please give it a try. How to take beautiful pictures using bounce stove in backlight. In this video, I will show you how to take beautiful pictures when shooting in a room with a small window using only one stove. First, have the subject stand in a position where the light from the small window is half backlit and try shooting with only half backlight. If you try to take a photo so that the background does not get blown out, the subject's face will be underexposed and dark. To brighten the subject's face, I use a white reflector to reflect light from the window. The subject becomes a little brighter and looks good, but it is still a little dark. Now I use a stove. The stove used this time is a Godox 8200. The stove is positioned so that the light from the window is in the same direction as the stove. The stove is aimed at the window and bounced off the wall. The light intensity of the window becomes stronger. The half backlight from the stove hits the reflector and brightens the subject. Since the stove is half backlit against the reflector, the light is soft and I was able to take a beautiful photo. The key is to match the direction of the light with the window light and bounce it to soften the light. Once you learn this lighting technique, you can apply it to any indoor situation. I recommend that you definitely learn this lighting technique. How to control background brightness to make your subject stand out. In this video, I will show you how to control the background brightness to make your subject stand out by using only one stove. The stove I used this time was a Godox 8200 attached to a round Godox QRP70 softbox. The subject was about 4 meters away from the background. First, decide the position of the stove. At first, I placed the stove in front of the subject. Lighting from the front gives a flat impression without any three-dimensionality. Next, I try lighting the subject from the side. I put the softbox as close to the subject as possible while being careful not to get it in the frame. The exposure is shutter speed 1/160th, aperture f3.2, ISO 200. The subject looks great with this cool, three-dimensional lighting, but the background is too dark. Since the stove light does not reach the background, if you want to brighten it, slowing down the shutter speed will make it a little brighter. Try shooting at the shutter speed one stop slower at 1/80th. The background is now a little brighter. Since the softbox hasn't moved, the subject has the same cool lighting. The background is too dark, so try shooting at the shutter speed one stop slower at 1/40th. The background is still dark. I want to make it brighter. Making the shutter speed any slower will result in camera shake, so I'll show you a slightly more difficult technique here. Turn down the light intensity of a stove by 1 2/3 stops. This will make the face darker, so increase the ISO by 1 2/3 stops, which should make the background brighter without changing the brightness of the subject. Now let's try shooting. The brightness of the background now has more atmospheric feel. The brightness of the subject face remains the same. However, when you slow down the shutter speed, the shadow area of the subject face actually becomes a little brighter as well, so it will appear a little brighter. If the subject and background are far apart in a room, and you bring a softbox closer to the subject, the background will be dark because the light from the stove won't reach it. In that case, you can brighten the background that is not hit by the stove by slowing down the shutter speed. If your shutter speed becomes too slow, increase the ISO to reduce the amount of light from the stove. This will have the same effect as slowing down the shutter speed. Remember that stoves are not affected by shutter speed. A little difficult, but interesting, isn't it? Give it a try, everyone. Differences in how to use clip-on stoves. When using clip-on stoves, most people either use them directly or bounce them off the ceiling. By using a clip-on stove as well as an off-camera stove, you can take pictures with very beautiful lighting. In this video, I will show you the different ways to use clip-on stoves. The clip-on stove I'll be using is the Godox Free one. The output is a little low at 76W, but it has enough power to be used in a room. First of all, I took pictures without using a stove, using the light in the room as it is. The contrast is weak, and the image looks flat. The colors are muddy, and it is not a nice picture. Next, turn on the clip-on stove and aim it directly on the subject. It looks very obvious that I have used a stove. The light hitting the subject is hard from the front, so it looks flat. And there is a hard shadow that stands out clearly in the background. Since the camera is in the vertical position and the clip-on stove is on the left, the shadows appear on the right side of the subject. This is not a good way to make the subject look beautiful. Now try shooting with the stove pointed at the ceiling and bounced off the ceiling. The soft light on the subject looked great. However, the background was dark in the shadow of the hanging dried flowers. I want to make the background look beautiful as well. Now I turn the stove off camera and attach it on the stand. The clip-on stove is bounced off the back right wall. Then I put the reflector in front of the subject and bounce the light from the wall further onto the subject. I attach the Godox X Pro flash trigger to the camera to wirelessly light the strobe. With the hairlight also hitting the subject has beautiful gradient lighting that makes it look attractive. In addition, the background light is like sunlight filtering through the trees, creating a very beautiful image. You can create such beautiful lighting with just one clip-on stop. Did you understand the difference in how to aim the clip-on stop? Please give it a try.